Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch, a weekly show amplifying the voices of the Virginia grassroots. Each week, we provide engaging conversations about politics, culture, and women making change. Produced by the unstoppable women of Network Nova, our motto is, when we vote, we win. The Friday Power Lunch is recorded before a live Zoom audience. Follow us on social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and show us some love and become a sponsor through Patreon. The Friday Power Lunch. Badass women getting things done.
So it is October 6th. Welcome to the Friday Power Lunch. I'm Catherine White, bringing you the guests, the issues, the action. And you know what we do? We amplify the voice of the grassroots to get things done and to make politics super fun. Today's theme, women making change, continuing the fight. I don't know if you had a chance to look at the book we'll be featuring today, 50 Years of Miss. I'm so excited. I would love to first introduce our guest real quick before we get to the whole show. And I'd love to bring on Kathy Spillar. She is the executive director of Miss Magazine and the author of 50 Years of Miss, the best of the Pathfinding Magazine That Ignited a Revolution. So how are you feeling today, Kathy? Coming in from the West Coast, pretty excited about the book. We're going to talk about it, but how are you feeling in sense about this change, women making change? You know, what's your word of advice today?
Oh my God, the video itself, I think said everything. We have to do it for ourselves. We have to keep fighting. We have to get full legal equality in the Constitution. We have to win elections. We have to gain real power so that we're at the decision-making tables everywhere. So I'm very excited to be here this morning.
I am too. And I just can't say enough about the color of this book. I think that really we need to design a whole room. I think leopard would really look good with this. I just have to say.
But it's radical raspberry.
Radical.
A lot of people have also been calling it the Barbie pink, but it really is.
I like radical raspberry. Mm-hmm. Well, good. I'm so glad. I think it's going to be so exciting because just where we were then, where we are now, really big conversation. So thank you for making the time to be with us today. We're so excited. Next up, speaking of making change, we have a great young activist here with us, CAROLYN KOCHARD, founder of Virginia Moms for Change. And today we're going to talk about making change, gun violence and how it affects the children in this country. I'm so excited for people to learn about your story. So thank you for being here. And tell me what's on your mind in the sense of takeaways for making change.
Well, I just feel like moms really, when it comes down to it, all we want is for our kids to be safe. And that's why gun violence is such a big issue for us. And I'm feeling really hopeful about moms coming out and voting and making some change.
I love it. And it's so true. When we talk about sisters doing it, I think about moms, and I think about, we'll talk about your story today. And I'm so excited you're here because this is such an important election. And Virginia, it's also in the minds of voters. You don't hear it out there talked about. You don't see Youngkin talking about it that much, but we're going to talk about it and make him talk about it. So thank you so much for being here. It was great to meet you and interview you the other day. Awesome. So, it's not a power lunch unless we have some awesome candidates on, because there's so many people running that we feel like we love to give them a few minutes of our time and your time to get to know them. So we have Russet Perry here from Senate District 31. Russet, ooh, she is looking good driving in the car. And what do you think? You ready for some radical raspberry today? She's not.
I am absolutely ready. Right, that name too. So excited to be here today. So excited to be here and join in this conversation and talk about my race and talk about the change that we are going to be making this year.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll let you continue on your journey, and when we will be circling back with you at the sort of the near last segment of the show. So I'm very excited to talk about this because this is such an important Senate seat. Another person that's equally important is we have Craig Buckley. You're running for sheriff in Loudoun. So when you think about making change where you are, what's the top important issue for you as sheriff or as a dad?
Well, certainly having community involved all the time, not just every 4 years at the ballot box, is extremely important to me. Also is having a better working relationship with our schools, because my wife works for our school system, as well as I have our two youngest sons are still in school. So we've had a history of a lack of communication between that and collaboration between our sheriff's office and the school system.
Yeah, well, okay, that will be a good change, making some good change out there. Craig, we'll circle back with you. Next up, is Daryl Bell here from Frederick County. He is running for school board.
He's in school and he won't be here till later.
He's in school. Well, that is a lot of the candidates, what's great is they're school teachers. So they don't always get to have that like break at noon. Okay, super. Well, if you're new to the room, welcome. This is a show produced by Network Nova, badass team of women getting it done. Sort of reminded me of Miss Magazine in a lot of ways, how this started. It's kind of how our show started. Same thing, women owned, women produced, and this is how we get it done here. But we also have the after chat for you to use, and this is a great way for you to communicate to each other. We want to make sure you tell people like where you're coming in from, put it in the chat, introduce yourself. Also, what's on your mind. You have an event you want to share, please share it in there, because we will later take those links and send them out later to everybody. So, and then you also have a voice at 1 p.m. We do the after chat. So if you stick around for that, it's a great way to come up, continue to talk to the guests, but also to present what maybe you want to talk about. And lastly, but the most important, is our patrons. If you had been a part of the messaging that kicks butt this week, and if you were a patron, you got to come for free, because we try to give our supporters to put a little money in our cup every month to keep our lights on here and invest in the women doing this work. You also get special perks sometimes. So we just so appreciate our patrons. And today, if you're feeling a little generous and you're feeling like, this is where I like to put a few dollars or more, please support us. We would love it. And you get these nifty backgrounds sent to you. All right. So LUISA Boyarski, who's the leader of our Virginia Grassroots Coalition, we're going to start it out with you because it's all about action.
Well, it is. And we all know that Virginia is the place to be acting for the next month. So what I want to do is share opportunities to get involved in contacting voters. This will be opportunities that if you're in Virginia, you can take advantage of. And if you're outside of Virginia, you can take advantage of. So want to make sure that there are opportunities for everyone. We know that Virginia is one of the key places that we have races this year. So we are going to be looking for support from across the country to get us over the finish line. So the first thing, and I hope you've all already received this information from STARE, but we want to encourage you to download the Swipe Blue app. Swipe Blue allows you to check into your network and see who's voted already in the election and who hasn't. It makes it possible for you to do that relational organizing, which we know has the greatest impact, even more impact than canvassing, which we know is one of the best ways to contact voters. But voters who who hear from you are much more likely to respond to your message than voters who don't know you. So please download the Swipe Blue app and join Network Nova on Tuesday, October 10th at 7 p.m. to learn more about how to use Swipe Blue. So if you don't have a chance to download the app yet, join us on the 10th and you can download it there and start finding ways to contact voters. And we also want to encourage you to share the app with others. So it's not just about getting in touch with our networks, but it's letting other voters know, hey, do you want to talk to your network? Let your network know that they need to vote. So if you're talking to a strong Dem on the doors, say, hey, do you know about Swipe Blue? Have you been using it to talk to your neighbors, talk to your people in your church, talk to people at your school? So we really want to encourage this relational organizing tool. Secondly, we still are going to need money for these campaigns. So I'm going to put in 2 links for donating to 2 sets of candidates who are just going to be really critical to winning this year. The first is a slate of candidates put together by Sam Rasool and the Impact Center. And they're having a fundraiser on October 7th, but you can also give, whether you can come to the fundraiser or not. And I'm also putting in a slate of strategically selected candidates who we need to win in order to make sure the Virginia House and Senate are blue. So I just met with Josh Cole, who's running, and at a fundraiser last night. They still need money to get his message out there. A lot of the Republicans are getting money in, they're going up on TV and finding other ways to get messages to voters. We need to make sure that we have enough money going into some of these tightest races so that they can continue that messaging up until Election Day. I'm going to also just highlight some of the campaigns that really need our help. These may be similar to the ones I may have mentioned earlier, but just as a reminder, these are ones that are must wins for us to hold the Senate blue and to turn the House blue. And if you have not already found a way to support these campaigns, please do so. The first one is Kimberly Pope Adams. She's House District 82, and I'll put a link to some of her opportunities to get involved in the chat. Monty Mason, Senate District 24, Nadarius Clark, House District 84, and Clint Jenkins, Senate District 17. Those are some of the key ones. If you can't go down in person in Canvas, get on a phone bank or send them some money, right? There's some multiple ways to help these candidates. And of course, as Catherine mentioned, you're going to hear from our great candidates in Loudoun County. So they'll tell you all about their races. And those are also must wins, including the Russet Perry seat. Lastly, I want to remind folks, canvas, 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 as many times as you can get on the doors between now and Election Day. It's really going to make a difference, especially because we've heard that Democrats have a lot of absentee ballots that are out there that have not been returned yet. So what I've been doing is when I go and canvas on a door, I look at their history in the minivan and I can tell if they have an absentee ballot. And that's what I start with. I say, I saw that you have an absentee ballot. Do you have any questions about it? Do you know that you need to put your last 4 digits of your social security number on it when you return it? When are you planning to return it? The sooner the better, right? So that way you don't have to canvass them and ask about voting because you know they've already said that they're interested in voting absentee. So we want to make sure that folks know about that. And I'm going to be putting in canvases for this weekend. If you have some free time, please find an opportunity to go knock on doors. And finally, for those of you who are out of town, I'm going to put in some phone banks that we have that you can participate in to talk to voters, as well as a letter writing opportunity. So lots of ways to do this, Catherine, but the biggest thing is we all need to commit to doing something. And pretty much we need to be doing something at least once a week at this point. We've got to get out there.
Twice, maybe 3 times, right?
If we can, yeah, absolutely.
Is doing it. I know. And I get a little worried. I just wanted your opinion on this. And I've seen it before, especially when we saw the big fundraiser that Youngkin's bringing in all this money. It kind of freaks people out. And I feel like that in 21, we got freaked out and all they did was raise money and it felt like up to the last minute, but it's how you execute the money strategically, how you use it, the money you have. And I feel I'm a little like not worried, but I'm like going, instead of really rallying voters, instead of really messaging voters and getting it out there in a big way, or maybe even getting the, Biden and the top people to sort of spotlight Virginia more. I find that people are just worried about money so much, but shouldn't we just worry about what we also do really well and execute it? You know what I mean? We know we're the power of what we've done. You know what I'm saying? Or what do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
I think what Josh Cole said at his fundraiser last night was perfect. He said, look, we definitely need money coming in, but the reason I need you to send money is so I can be on the doors. He understands how important field is. He is knocking doors and talking to the persuadable voters. And he said, but in order for me to do that, I can't do call time, right? I can't be on the phone asking for money and knocking on doors at the same time. So that's why, part of it is if you can't help knock on doors, then donate, right? There are reasons that it's helpful to have that funding because Josh does need to be up on TV. His opponent is up on TV, but there are also some really, strategic ways to do this. So you can talk to campaigns. Are there things you've been wanting to do that you haven't had the funding for? So for example, 31st Street Swing Left is funding Josh Cole to go up on Black radio. And they said, look, yeah, people are up on TV, but you have this fantastic network of African Americans in your community. You're a pastor. You should get your voice out there on the media that they listen to, that they trust. And so I think there's some really interesting ways. And the best news about, radio is it's cheaper than TV, right? So we can have a great impact, on different types of media. We don't always have to think about it as being TV ads.
No, I just have this fantasy that we'll someday just buy every billboard in Virginia and put up run really good message. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't know. I sort of look at this run to, again, the fundraising, and I want to see it executed. What was great, I just got a postcard in the mail the other day. It made me really happy, written with a "When we vote, we win" postcard it was awesome to receive that. So that is really great. Well, thank you, LUISA. And I want to say, go get doing it, and we will see you. When's the next coalition meeting?
The next coalition meeting is not this Sunday because it's a holiday weekend, so it'll be next Sunday.
Yeah. Okay. Well, if you want to put that in the chat, everybody in this room, if you're in this room right now, you want to get into action in Virginia, go to the Virginia Grassroots website and also join our coalition, because it's the best way to really learn about what is going on in Virginia and how you can help. So we'll let you take a break. I know you have a lot to do. And I just wanted to bring up, so we'll see you, LUISA. We had a program the other day. We had a really great opportunity. If you've been following Simon Rosenberg on the Hopium Chronicles, we were able to go on with Delegate Dan Helmer and rally people across the United States, all these grassroots activists. And this gives me a lot of hope, because what we found in Wisconsin and the races in Ohio, it was activists coming in from other states to help us. And they've been doing this now for weeks and months, which is really makes you feel good, because that's how we're going to win. They may have their billionaires, but what we have is dedicated, awesome, badass, kick-ass people that really care. They really care about the people. So we curated a list, and we'll go ahead and put it in the chat. And we'll be changing this periodically and updating it. But what we have in there is, we call it our revved up little cheat sheet, where if you are looking for things to do, you can go right in there and click and look for opportunities, events, canvases, and all that kind of stuff. And I do want to point out that what we have going on is, I don't know if you want to put up the postcard. One thing is, I'll just put it up here. Look at this. Women are doing it. We're sending our own messages, and these postcards are for sale. Go ahead and order them, and go ahead and write. This is great. Your ballot is private, and your uterus should be, because women are doing it, and they've designed these awesome postcards. And lastly, at this little power chat, I want to say is Rural Ground Game. Rural Ground Game is having a week of action, and they will be having all kind of opportunities. I think it's October 14th through the 21st. And there's 30 candidates they're helping, and it will also be like a ton of fun. So if you all can put that link in there, you'll also find it in that document. So good. I hope you're all settled up when you got your canvas shoes all oiled up, because we are going to get to our guests. I'm excited to bring up also, there you are, Kathy Spillar. If you're just coming in the room, she's the executive editor of Miss Magazine and author of the 50 Years of Miss, the best of Pathfinding Magazine That Ignited a Revolution. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so let's talk about, when I think about this movement and I think about the 50 Years of Miss, let's start at the beginning in the sense of, let's just talk about the climate then, and why this Miss Magazine came about. Give us some context.
Ms. was launched in 1972 by Gloria Steinem, and this is the important point. In addition to journalists, there were many activists who came together with Gloria to launch Ms. They believed that at the time the women's rights movement was burgeoning, it needed its own publication, because all too often so-called mainstream media never covered the issues that were greatest concern to women. And if they did, it was very superficial, or it was presenting both sides, as opposed to really digging down about what the injustices were that women were facing and the solutions that the feminist movement was offering. Those rarely made it into mainstream media. So Ms. was created to be a voice and a vehicle for connecting the ideas of this movement with the activists on the ground doing the work to make the change. And we've, since taking on publishing Ms. In 2002, we have stuck to that mission, the importance of bringing these ideas to the forefront, really deep investigative reporting, critical reporting on the problems that women continue to face, the solutions, both cultural change and policy change and legal change, and to connect to feminist activists on the ground so that readers know how to get involved, which is exactly what you're doing with this broadcast every week.
Right. It's so true. You know, the stories when you start to get in, and I have to say that it is out. People can buy this book now. And just digging into the early years, I'm just fascinated because I'm always fascinated how things start and the genesis of it. Of course, the 70s, you have Roe, you know, you have Roe v. Wade, you have a lot of things changing. Even was it 1975 where women still couldn't get their own credit card or bank account. You know, there was still so much that women were struggling with to get that kind of equality. You have the launching of the Equal Rights Amendment. And then, so in your opinion there, what are some of the challenges that were around that from the early days of that kind of organizing that really is something that we can learn from today, maybe?
Well, the challenges in some cases were the same. We do not have gender balance and power in decision making, whether it's in Congress or the state legislatures or local city councils or corporate boardrooms or university trusteeships. So we continue to lack equal power, which must remain at the forefront of this movement as a goal. But what they had then was smaller public opinion support. They started from behind. And indeed, a lot of the work that Ms. did was to name the problems and define the problems and to begin to mobilize more and more women and men in this movement to make the change. And I think it's something to always remember is that change doesn't just happen. Change is driven by activism, by deliberate efforts, by collective action. You know, as we always say, occasionally movements must move. And that's what I think Ms. was so critical in doing, is bringing feminists together in a community with a common understanding of the problems, but also ideas for how do you make change, hope for the future. You know, on the abortion issue, for example, a lot of people say to us, we're traveling the country, by the way, we have about 35 of events in person set up across the country around the book, bringing local feminist communities together to discuss the current climate, what we must do to move forward to gain real equality. And I get this so many times that, well, we started with abortion not legal when Ms. launched, and here we are again. But there's a real difference between then and now. And Ms. did play a role, by the way, in legalizing abortion. Its very first issue published a petition signed by 50 famous women, including not only Gloria Steinem, but Billie Jean King and others, saying that they had had abortions and admitting to many of them having illegal abortions. But the Washington Post recently, in an editorial, wrote that, in fact, that act of making visible that which had been invisible, which were the women who had abortions, had changed the course of the abortion rights movement. And indeed, a year later, we saw Roe versus Wade. And since then, we've seen tens of thousands sign on to similar petitions, even amicus briefs filed before the Supreme Court in the Dobbs decision. But they were coming at that time from a place of minority support. Now we're a majority movement in a major way. And this movement in many ways has never been bigger. And you're seeing that on the ground, whether it's in elections like in Virginia, in defeating anti-abortion ballot measures that Republican-controlled state legislators put on the ballot in putting pro-choice, let's put abortion rights in state constitution ballots that are passing by significant margins. One right now in Ohio that will be voted on in November on putting abortion rights and reproductive rights in the Constitution in Ohio. You're seeing this massive mobilization. I think that when history is finally written on this period, that it will be said that the Republicans made a fatal error in stacking the court with these so-called originalists who have turned the clock back on women's rights, because now that women understand that rights can be taken away, it has increased the urgency of moving forward, and especially around the Equal Rights Amendment.
No, and I think your point is well taken. And for this room, we've been talking about this idea. Heather Cox Richardson just talked about it on the MSN or a program about the minority rule. It's not the first time that democracy's been at risk. We lost our democracy from like 1874 to 1965, where we had a small minority rule. And she's always been ringing those alarm bells. But you're right. Abortion, women's rights, equal rights are very popular. We'll get into that research later, but we see what's happening in this country is the levers of power are being shut down for like the we the people idea, right? There's gerrymandering. We have you looked in Tennessee, what happened down there with the way that when you just have this stricture where nobody's voices can be heard, the people's voices can't even be heard. The minority has this crazy rule. We see it right now with the government shutdown and the speaker being kicked out, 8 people being able to control this powerful country. So it's not that this is unpopular, is what you're saying. It's that it's really trying to get out from under. Let's talk about the patriarchy. When we talk about the patriarchy, it's always a fun subject.
Yes.
Is the authoritarianism that comes along with it. So I kind of see that where we're at. You know what I mean?
That is. Yeah, that's what's happening in this country and in other countries around the world. And another, important point in all of this, and what we keep emphasizing in Ms. is that as authoritarians rise and as the patriarchy rises up, women's rights are part of their plan. Attacking women's rights is critical to the rise of authoritarianism. We see it here and we see it around the world. It's not incidental. It's not a side effect. It is, in fact, the first attacks that are made. Women really are the canaries in the coal mine. We saw it in Afghanistan. We see it in Poland. Everywhere that authoritarianism is on the rise, women's rights are under attack. And if we understand that, it gives us more strategy on how to fight back. And you're right. We're not represented in these state legislatures. Shame on Alito. He's educated. He knows better to say that let's just return this to the democratic process in state legislatures. Well, in the South, in many of those state legislatures, women are less than 15%, sometimes less than 12%. That isn't representation. The people passing these horrific bans are overwhelmingly men. Yes. How is that democracy? How is that returning this to a democratic process? It is not. But it will not. It will not last. It will if we continue to fight.
And I think that's what the stories are so inspiring, right? I do want to talk about what I found also, because I love it, because it reminds me of the activism we see in this room, is that Miss deciding to throw off this idea about being beholden to advertisers. It was a lot of the forward. Talk a little bit about that, because I think that, to me, that was just really powerful, how they made that risky decision. Talk about that and why.
Well, it really is true for magazines that are female-dominated audiences, especially. But it was a problem from the very beginning. First of all, in the early 70s, advertisers didn't want to be known as a woman's product. I mean, cars, other kinds of consumer goods, even though women were purchasing half the cars by the mid 70s, and they were making and still to this day make the majority of decisions on consumer products in households. But they didn't want to become known as a woman's product. But more importantly, in many ways, and why Ms. gave it up, is that the only types of companies that really wanted to advertise in women's magazines were diet aids, how to lose weight, makeup, how to make yourself more attractive to get a date. And they would insist that in exchange for the advertising, you had to have editorial content that supported the idea that women should use the product.
Right.
It's anathema. You can't do that and be a feminist magazine. But we've continued non-commercial advertising because we don't want to be beholden to any interest, and we don't want to have to second guess any of the investigative articles that we're publishing or any of the positions that we're taking. We don't have to wonder, is there sexual harassment problems at company X or sex discrimination at company Y? So we don't take any corporate advertising because we don't want to have to worry about that ever in terms of publish.
It just is very powerful, and just to take that risk and to be successful, and then it's a great story. So just definitely read it. We have definitely a few more minutes here, and I want to make sure we get to first of all, everybody get this book and read it. And there's some great stories and just beautiful covers and poems and just wonderful history in here. But the research that you recently did and was released, I really want to make sure that we get to those top points because they're really important to what's happening in Virginia. So can you tell us about that research and the polls and some of those top takeaways?
Right. Ms. and the Feminist Majority Foundation have had a history of sponsoring polls. And this most recent poll was conducted by Celinda Lake and her team at Lake Research Partners. And it was a nationwide poll asking voters what were some of the most important issues to them. And this is very important. And I want Virginians to hear this, and I hope that Virginia candidates pay attention. Abortion remains a very powerful motivating factor, especially for women and especially for independent women. And even half of Republican women say that they do not want the decision about abortion and reproductive health to be taken away from individuals. They believe that individuals have the right to make those decisions. But among Democrats, it is a core truth, a core value. And among independents, it's a motivating factor, and especially among women and young women. The other thing that I want candidates to hear is that when you combine that with the Equal Rights Amendment, and Virginia has gone through in the last 3 years a whole fight to become the final state needed to ratify, and the amendment has now been ratified because of Virginia. We just are fighting to get it in the Constitution and recognized, but it's been ratified. Is that when you combine abortion rights and the Equal Rights Amendment, that is so powerful to drive voters to the polls. But candidates have to say something about it. It has to become a top issue in their campaigns. The Republicans are trying to make everything from, rising prices and crime and the border, all this stuff they're saying is the top issues. It's not when you ask voters what are their top issues. When you combine abortion and the Equal Rights Amendment, it is the second top issue for voters. And for young women and women voters, it's even higher priority. But candidates have to campaign on that. And in Virginia, if in fact the Republicans take over both houses and they already have the governorship, you're risking the loss of abortion rights. You're risking that they will try and rescind their ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment. Those messages are key in candidate speeches, materials, and the work that grassroots activists like you are doing on the ground. I think if voters understand that, they will come out and vote blue. And it still remains one of the most powerful motivating factors for voters who believe that the abortion decision is up to the individual. 2 times what voters who oppose that position are motivated. In other words, for our side, voters are more motivated by a factor of twice than those who oppose us. So it's a very powerful issue to bring voters to the polls, and it's a very powerful issue in deciding who they're going to vote for. So I hope that candidates are using these issues in Virginia because it's critical.
No, it is. And I shared that we need to, and we have the link to that PowerPoint that you sent. I think that really had some good graphs, real good statistics on all those questions asked. And I did, we will be sharing it because it is really excellent and it's true. And we know that we need to be loud about it because the Republicans will be running from that issue. And we're going to talk to CAROLYN KOCHARD first soon from Moms for Change in Virginia. They also don't want to talk about gun violence prevention as well. So we need to make sure these are issues that women, families, and people care about. So very, yes. Yeah. No, so we're so glad you're with us. And and this book, like I said, I have it over here, and it's lovely. And it really just infuses you with such power and feeling that we've come a long way. We have a lot more to do, and the fight just continues. So Kathy Spillar, thank you so much for being here. And we hope you stay in community with us, and tell all your friends that can help in Virginia. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. And I do hope everybody not only gets the book, but joins Ms. so that you get the magazine and you get our newsletter so that you can keep up with what's happening through a feminist lens, as opposed to what you get from some of the other media sources.
Yeah, I love it. The idea of a feminist lens. I'm going to put my feminist lenses on right now. Here we go. All right. Okay. Here, I could see everybody. That patriarchy. Anyways, thank you, Kathy, for being there.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. And it's true, everybody, get the Miss Magazine, 50 years. We need 50 more years of it. So great. Next up, very excited to have on a new friend of the show. And when we're talking about the issues, that matter the most, it is our children. It is what's happening with gun violence in this country. And it's just so super overwhelming when we hear about a shooting every day. So CAROLYN, I'd love to talk about, you're the founder of Virginia Moms for Change. Let's just start at the beginning. I always like to find out your journey. Tell me about you. Tell us, our audience, about you and how you came to founding this organization.
Yes, so I grew up in a fairly conservative household in Florida. And so I was a Republican because that's how I was raised. But then, I went to college in Virginia, and, the more I learned and got out there in the world, I was like, I'm not so sure. And then, Trump was very polarizing and changed how I voted. And then, I was a 4th grade teacher and was doing active shooter drills with my kids, and was like, this just doesn't, why are we living like this? And then as far as school shootings go, Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas was the first school shooting since I had my own kids. And then, Covenant happened in Nashville, and I was like, I'm sick of crying, having physical reactions, hunched over the toilet, vomiting, and donating to Everytown, calling my reps. And, it's interesting, we talk about Republicans don't want to talk about it, or, they're not going to change their mind. I had heard from so many moms, like, I'm just going to call my Republican representative. Like, if we call enough, they're going to do something. And, quickly learned they're not going to change their minds. We need to change their seats. And so I was posting a lot of my outrage on Instagram, decided to move it to a gun-focused Instagram. We started as RVA Moms for Change, but I met so many wonderful women through this. We moved to making it Virginia Moms for Change, and then created a 501c4 out of that. And we believe that we can do this through policy. We also know that school shootings are such a low percentage of what's really going on. It's a lot of suicide, a lot of issues with safe storage. And from a policy perspective, we're really just trying to make change in Virginia and in our nation.
Well, I'm sure people like we had asked you too, that there's Moms Demand Action. So how are you different? What sets you apart?
So we're going to remain in Virginia, and we right now have a board of 5, and we can move very quickly. We're pretty nimble. So if there's something we want to do, we don't need to head to a national overhead. We can, pretty much move into action the next day. But we love Moms Doing Action. We think they've done so many wonderful things, and we're just adding voices. We say we're a nonpartisan group. About 25% of our 2,100 followers are Republican or independent, but we then tell them this is a partisan issue in our government.
Yeah. And so when you talk about policy and you talk about the changes, are you involved right now with crafting policy, or are you just, you're very new. So you just started, what are we talking, the couple months ago since Covenant to shooting in Tennessee?
April 2023. So we have bills identified, federal bills that we support, but we're not going to see any movement on right now. And we'll be looking at 2024 lobbying, but right now we're focused on this election. It's pretty much
that's important. So yeah, let's talk about that part of it. What does that look like for you and for your organization in this election? What's the process? Are you doing endorsements, or what are you doing to help?
We've endorsed over 50 candidates. We sent out a questionnaire to every single candidate. We got back 2 Republicans, but they didn't align on every question that we had asked. So they are all Democrats, obviously. And we are sending out their message to our followers, and then also sharing all their volunteer opportunities, helping to canvass for our endorsed candidates.
No, that's awesome. And I love that you're bringing in, it feels like, I don't know, a couple weeks ago, we had Representative Gloria Johnson on, who's the rep down in Tennessee. And this is where the Covenant shooting happened. We had her on to talk about that, because for them too, that was such a movement of activism and outrage that shooting happened and nothing was done. And they actually took to the floor. And this is where the Tennessee 3 was born. And also we saw a lot of young moms showing up that identified as Republican or independent. So, this is what your story as well. So it feels like that this didn't just impact this area in Tennessee, but this really has awoken a lot of people like yourself that said, oh, well, that will never happen in my school, right? Or it couldn't happen to me. This is when we really, sometimes it gets, we awaken and we become an activist. Correct?
Yes, absolutely. And it's, it shouldn't have taken Covenant to wake up. It should have been earlier, but that's just
the way it is.
It is what it is. This is a problem in our nation. And, one of the fathers of the Uvalde victims said, we haven't just failed as a country, we failed as a human race because we don't protect our young.
Yeah, it's true. It's just too many guns and it's too much loss. And so we're so grateful for your work. And if there's candidates in the room that you want to work with Virginia Moms for Change, we have all the information in the chat. So we're so glad that you came and you shared your story today. And if you want to we put your links in there if people want to donate to also the organization. We're just grateful for the work you're doing, because we do this election. We need to make sure that this is on people's minds. Voters, all this stuff happens and people get outraged and then they just kind of forget. So we're glad you haven't. We're glad that you're an activist. And so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been awesome to get to know you. So I'm glad. I hope everybody in the room is having a good day today. I know it's Friday. We have a weekend of hopefully you're going to get into some action. And I know we do have that, Stare, your background has to get out the vote for the rural. It's awesome. The week of action, make sure that you pick 1 or 2 things to do this weekend for a candidate. And today we're going to have some candidates on. We have Russet Perry in the room. She's running for Senate in 31. And when we talk about abortion being on the ballot, it really is this fight and lauded. This seat will determine if, what will happen in the Senate. So could we bring up Russet?
We need Russet to turn on her camera. Oh, here we go.
She is. Hey, Russet Perry. I'm so glad. Hey. So where are you traveling to?
We are traveling to the Adams Center, the mosque down in Sterling for service.
No, oh, that's great. That's a great place, great community to be in. So let's talk about you, Russet. Talk about this race. All eyes. I know it's getting heated up for you. So tell us right now, the people in the room, about your race and how you're going to fight for women in Virginia.
Yeah. So this race is uber competitive. Purple toss-up seat. And also the seat that will be the tipping point for whether or not Dems can hold the Senate this fall. So I know we've talked a lot about abortion on this call, abortion very much on the ballot in this race, in the seat. You know, I know the polling says, you know, women come out, they care about abortion, they care about having control over their body. And that is our, you know, the number one issue in this district and I'm polling here. But, you know, obviously Republicans are coming in hard and trying to sort of thread the needle and say, well, what if we only roll back your rights a little bit? What if we only take them away a little bit? What if we, you know, only take them back to 15 weeks? And so we're making a big push to make sure that people know that, you know, the law currently is 26 weeks, that, you know, that a ban is a ban is a ban, that they are taking back your rights. They are rolling us back. They are trying to take us back before Roe, before 1973 here in this district. So that's a big focus for our campaign. My opponent is the son of a billionaire. And obviously, as we've talked about earlier, so much money that we expect will be coming in here in the last minutes of the race to try to take away women's rights.
Yeah, I saw your commercial. It was great. You look great and it was strong. And I do think we do need to really come out punching, because they want to drag us down into these conversations about weeks or what we'll tolerate. And I think you just got to flip them on them and not chase them where they want to talk about this issue, right? Because if you look at what they're talking about, what they actually put on the floor for, they wanted to ban even contraception. We see what's happening to women in other states. So, you know, we're not falling for it. So that's good that you're not. So in the sense of your opponent, we hear about it too, another billionaire with a bunch of money. What other things out there are you kind of excited about? Do you see more people coming out to help you? Or it seems like we have a lot of grassroots groups interested in getting involved in your campaign.
Yeah, we have had a ton of people come out to help, to come knock doors, to write postcards, to come out and really support the folks here in Virginia. And also, you know, it's obviously not just the people out here in this district, Loudoun and Fauquier. This affects the whole state. And, you know, Virginia, of course, being the last state without an abortion ban, you know, we've seen an influx and uptake in women coming from across the South here to Virginia to get the care that they need. And so, yeah, we have seen a large uptick, which is really what we need. We need people out on the doors. We need people communicating about the importance of this race, getting people out. We saw some mailers come out just yesterday from a, you know, very right-wing Republican January 6th supporter group, telling people, mailing to their house that they're going to lose their child support and their Medicaid and all these other things if they don't get out and vote, targeted at, you know, Republican voters. So, you know, there's some, you know, unfortunate games being played here. And so it's on us to make sure that we make sure that people are informed and know what's happening.
Yeah, I think information is so key, because, yeah, they're going to use, and in the sense of it's really, we were talking about this with messaging. We do also, as Democrats, have to put, you know, the threat. And when I say threat, I mean just what's at stake, you know, that we need to keep the Democrats in power just to balance this out, because we know what will happen in this state and the progress that will be rolled back. And even after January 6th, and then after this stuff going on, my hope is some of this, watching that Republicans are failing to lead, that people, why would you want to put them in charge? I mean, you know, so great. So we know you're on the run. We want to make sure everybody knows Russet Perry, running for Senate 31, and your background is in law and domestic violence. You have been a great advocate for sexual assault and domestic violence, and we just are going to get you over that line and just keep fighting. It's time to fight. Gloves off. Let's go.
Right. Last 31 days. Yeah. Let's go.
No, yeah, nothing on the table. I'm serious. This is time. There, tricks or what? We're gonna get it. So thank you, Russet, for being here. We'll be out there helping you too, and be safe. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Bye. And then next up, the sheriff's in town. We need a new sheriff in town, right? Craig Buckley running for sheriff out in Loudoun. Welcome to the Power Lunch. How are you feeling after being on the Power Lunch? You ready to roll?
I'm great. And Catherine, thanks for having me here. I don't know if it's by design, but a lot of the points that I've been running on since December were echoed by Captain Spillar. I think just to give you a little bit of background about what I've really been pushing since December. And one of the first things I put up was a pledge that we would adopt a national 30 by 30 initiative. For those of you who don't know what that is, that's to have 30% of our sworn staff be women. By 2030. A lot of other agencies around us, both federal, state, and local, have signed onto this 3 years ago when it actually began, but we're well behind that curve, being a leader in the region by adopting that. And I think, and really, but at Loudoun County, I just want to point out that Loudoun County is not by any means behind that, because we have so many wonderful women leaders in our county. The chief of police in Purcellville, the chief of police, the new chief of police for Leesburg. You have the mayor of Leesburg, our chair, Phyllis Randall, our board of supervisors, our Commonwealth's attorney. So many. Where the lacking is the leadership taking the initiative to make that translate into our sheriff's office. Yeah. There's about 800 employees there, and we only have one woman that's in any type of forward-facing policy-making role. And that's bad.
I didn't know that. I didn't know Loudoun was well, doesn't shock me right now because I know some stuff about the sheriff's department out there, but that is awesome, that change you would bring. And so what are you seeing on the doors when you talk to voters? Do they recognize that there needs to be change in the sheriff's office, and why that will benefit them?
Yes, actually, many of the voters are concerned about a lot of the schools and our interaction and lack of communication with them. And that's why the difference between me and the current administration is that I want to have community involvement throughout the time, not just every 4 years at the ballot box. What a lot of people don't realize is that several years ago, we elected state legislators that passed laws, community policing laws, Community Policing Act. But a portion of our Virginia code was rewritten so that sheriffs and sheriff's deputies were exempt from some of those laws. The cornerstone of that is having any type of citizen advisory council or oversight. What I propose is to have a sheriff's advisory council made up of members from the community, because we have a diverse community here. 1 in 4 of our residents was born outside of the U.S. And we happen to be the 4th largest municipality in Virginia. And our law enforcement, we are a full service sheriff's office. So we are the law enforcement for our county. And I think it's important that our citizens have a voice all the time. I'm running on transparency, accountability, and collaboration. The accountability.
I was just going to ask you. Yeah, I was just going to ask you about that, because I feel like there's a lack of transparency and accountability. Well, the sheriff's department right now is not being transparent.
Correct. We know in the last election cycle, there was a sheriff's deputy who was, and there was a Fox 5 story on this. Anyone can look it up and watch this. I learned about it by watching the news just 14 to 16 months after the fact, but it was within the last election cycle where he was taking young girls and assisting them with breaking into a community center to go swimming in their in their underwear, and there were video and photos taken, and and that deputy still remains employed with the sheriff's office. So and that was uncovered by that Fox 5 story. And that's people in our community are shocked about that. People in our community are shocked about the fact the number of sex crimes that we have that go uninvestigated or not closed.
No,
good
it's
example
true.
of that.
I was reading the redacted that the circuit court released about the incident out loud, and the sheriff's department played such a role in not investigating that right away, and also threatening to arrest the school board or anybody that would want it to investigate it before. And have you looked into that? I mean, do voters actually know that the sheriff's role in this, or are they being gaslit about what really happened?
It's that report is newly coming out, so I haven't really seen that much of the response at the doors. When I'm knocking doors, as far as that, a lot of them are still going back to the initial incident that was grand jury report, which even the grand jury report showed that there was a lack of communication. I think there was a statement in there where the sheriff refused to have any more communications with the school administration and such. But getting to your point about the redacted report that the circuit court sent out, what that showed is that hampered the ability for services to that victim. And there seems to be a recurring theme of that, where there's a lack of services to our victims of sex crimes. And I've got to draw the correlation. I mean, from what I see is we have a lack of representation of women within the agency. If we have that, unfortunately, I think there's a voice there that is never going to be heard. And that in a big way dictates the approach that we take and the amount of what we put behind it to make sure that these young women are heard and protected.
No, I agree. I felt like it was really a weaponized situation that went on there, and not the victims' really rights were put forward and really addressed, and they just made it a political weapon about something that they didn't really address, that women that experience sexual assault or date rape, how this is handled and how this is investigated. And instead they sort of just try to make it about a transgender bathroom issue, and it had nothing to do with that, except it got kind of cross-wired because politically they wanted to make it about that. And so I think that the problem is voters aren't really reading what you have to really dig to really get out the facts. And so I'm glad you're running. But we do need that change. So I'll give you a last comment because we have a school board member to come up. Last takeaway.
What I would just say, Catherine, what you pointed out there is, my promise is I will never look at anything through a political lens. I'm a public servant. I've been a public servant for 30 years. I'm looking at everything through a public service lens. Are we serving the people that we've been elected, and are the victims being heard and being protected? In that incident we're talking about, the parents were cast aside, the victim was cast aside. As a result of that, we ended up with a second victim that probably should have never happened. And again, that whole cycle starts all over again. We're law enforcement. We're supposed to be the adults in the room. And quiet that noise and step back and really address what the issue is there, not look at a political ideology.
And let's say maybe it's a good idea that we don't have a role model as the former president who grabbed women by their private parts, who did this kind of behavior. You don't see the other side, Republicans talking about that they are championing these sexual predators. And that is a problem for women who are continuously have to, worry about when they go to the mall, getting to the car, or that, just being a victim of domestic abuse. And we have these abusers in power, the most powerful job, talking about women, degrading women. And so it's sort of like, shut up or put up. Like, it's like, this is where we need. I'm so glad you'll be fighting for women and girls, because it's really, truly who we're role modeling in these, in these positions of power. So for sure. Did I say it? I said it, everybody. Okay. Thank you, Craig. You just got me. I got on my soapbox. Sorry, but it's true. It's sort of like, I don't think you have a little, a foot to stand on when this is what you decided you would elect, that it was an abuser of women. Okay. So, Daryl, with that said, Daryl, how are you? Bell, welcome. Frederick County, are you near Winchester, running for school board?
Yes, I am. I'm running for school board in Frederick County, and it's specifically the Opequon district of Frederick County, which encompasses Stevens City and some land around it.
I love in the back your poster. You're getting very feministy. I love it. No, we can
Absolutely.
do it.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah, I teach civics to eighth grade students in Berryville, Virginia. And this is the first poster I put up in my new classroom because together we can do it, regardless if we're boys or girls.
Yeah, I love it. That's great. And it's such a great history if you read myths about that whole Rosie the Riveter and what happened all behind that. So, so tell us, are you right now on the school board? Are you a teacher? Tell me a little bit about your background.
Sure. I've been teaching for about 30 years. I've taught in a few different countries. I've taught at a couple of different states. And right now I'm teaching civics eighth grade at Johnson Williams Middle School in Berryville. I am not on the school board currently. The member that is sitting in the position I'm seeking is stepping down, and it's myself against one other candidate. I want to emphasize one thing though. I'm not running as a Democrat or a Republican. I'm running independently because the school board does not, and I sort of echo Craig Buckley, the school board does not, or politics don't belong in a school board situation. I'm representing all of the students, all of the teachers, and all of the citizens of the county. So I want to make that really clear.
Yeah. So there's a Republican, Democrat, and independent on this particular race.
So basically, the way, at least the way the county sets it up, we aren't going to have a little letter next to our name that indicates whether or not we're a Republican or Democrat or independent. But we have to declare something when we fill out the paperwork. So I put independent. But it's been made clear that my opponent is really working with the Republican Party, and they're supporting her a great deal. I am not working with any political party at all. I have support from both Republicans and Democrats.
Very great.
I have support from a mom's group called Frederick County Strong, which is phenomenal in their support. But yeah, my goal is to work hard for the students and the teachers first, and of course for the citizens as well of Frederick County.
Yeah, I think over the years, right, just getting off topic but on topic, is that these school board positions have become really more political.
For sure.
And then yet they don't let you put the R or the D on the ballot, but we know that which candidate's being really supported. I love that you are kind of running to be a representative of the parents and the students. And I just really think that's really awesome, especially out that way. You know, that's really great. Well, we appreciate you coming today. How can we help you? What help do you need from, we want to let people know?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm on a shoestring budget, but I'm perfectly fine in that realm. I'm not asking for money. I would love if people would come down to Frederick County and check us out. Awesome. I could always use door knockers and support like that. Writing letters to the newspaper, to the Winchester Star, supporting my candidacy, that would be fantastic. I've put my email address in the comments so people can reach out to me directly. But I have a Facebook page. You can check that out. It's basically my name. It's the Daryl Bell. This is brand new for me. I'm very grassroots. I like to joke I'm the seedling. So
a seedling. That's how we all start. So I appreciate that. Well, thank you, Daryl. We'll make sure your links are in there. So I know that We the People for Education, that's a great resource for you, Daryl. It's a great group that if you need any assistance, they've been helping school board people with different things. So thank you for coming. And it was really a pleasure to meet you. Good poster. Good poster.
Thank you. May I actually add one just last thing?
Oh, sure.
Okay? Go ahead. One of the things that I'm running on, and I want to make sure that as many people know this as possible, I don't think we have enough career and technical education programming in our schools, and that's a state and countrywide issue. I think we need more CTE programming available for both boys and girls at the middle school level, the high school level, because not everybody's going to college. and it's okay if they don't. I really, really would love to spearhead a program that we could incorporate in Frederick County and perhaps even in the state, where
Right.
CTE is a much larger part of our curriculum.
Yeah, well, thank you.
you.
I think a lot. Thank you very much. And with that note, it'll be good for kids. I think the Governor Northam was also a big proponent of more apprenticeships and more technical schools. So super duper. All right, it's that time of day where Catherine has gone over today, but that's okay. I just want to say, if you want to support the show, become a patron. We have some special perks for that. I want to say that follow us on social media. We have a great YouTube channel. This show will be up on there. We do have a recap email that will come out to you with all the links, so you can relax and watch the show and the links come to you. I want to thank you for the team for putting this on today. It's always a lot of work, and we will roll credits. And I hope to see you in the after chat.